I caught my fiancée in bed with my best friend. In our bed, in our home, on a Tuesday. I still remember the smell of her favorite Thai takeout in my hands, the sound of my boots on the hardwood floor, and the sinking feeling that something was off. I had come home early to surprise her, but I was the one who got surprised. I walked upstairs. The door was cracked open. I heard them before I saw them. Laughter, whispers, and then there they were, naked, tangled in sheets I bought, on the mattress we chose together. My best friend Marcus froze. His face went pale like he saw a ghost. But Lena, my fiancée, she just looked at me, tilted her head, and smirked. What are you going to do, Timothy? Cry. That moment should have broken me. But it didn't, because what Lena didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I had already seen this coming. I had been planning for weeks, watching, collecting, preparing. So I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled and said, "Thanks for making this easy." Then I walked out, and that's when the real story began. If this hit you deep, drop a 1 in the comments. I want to hear your story. Thank you for walking through this fire with me. If this resonated, subscribe, and share. Someone out there needs to hear this. My name's Timothy. I'm 35 years old, and I've lived in Seattle my whole life. Civil engineer by trade, builder by nature. I like structure, things that make sense, things you can count on. That's probably why I fell so hard for Lena. She was different from me in all the ways that felt exciting. She was 29, sharp, charming, the kind of woman who could light up a room with just a smile. We met at a conference downtown. She was handling marketing for a real estate firm, and I was there consulting on infrastructure plans. What started with coffee turned into dinners, and what started as casual quickly became everything. After 3 years together, I proposed. It wasn't just about love. It was about certainty. I thought she was solid. I thought she was mine. Marcus was my best friend for over a decade. We met in college, played intramural sports together, traveled, built a bond one thought was unbreakable. He was the guy I called after my dad died, the guy who gave the toast at my mom's retirement. So naturally, when Lena and I got engaged, Marcus was the first person I asked to be my best man. He didn't hesitate, said he'd be honored. Looking back, I don't know if he was lying through his teeth or if he actually believed his own performance. What I do know is that there were warning signs, small cracks that I ignored, because that's what you do when you trust someone. You tell yourself the story you want to believe. At first, Lena and I were that couple people talked about, the ones who just fit. We hosted game nights, took weekend trips, had matching coffee mugs that said his engineer and her vision. People envied us. My mother once pulled me aside and said, "You found your person." And I believed it. We made plans for a future. A house just outside the city, 2 kids. Maybe a dog if my allergies could handle it. We weren't perfect, but we were building something real, something steady. Or so I thought. Then, about 4 months before everything came crashing down, Lena started going to the gym more. Nothing unusual at first, just wanting to feel stronger, she said. I supported it, bought her new shoes, encouraged her to push herself. She told me Marcus had offered to help her with a few workout tips, since he used to train part-time. I didn't think twice. I trusted both of them, completely, but then she started coming home late, brushed it off as networking events or client meetings. Her phone started living face down on the table. She smiled at texts she wouldn't let me see, and when I asked, she turned it back on me, told me I was being paranoid. "Don't you trust me?" she asked. I said I did, and I really thought I did, but something in my gut was twisting tighter every day. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong. Yet, it was a Tuesday, nothing special. I was supposed to be out on a site visit until 6, but the meeting wrapped early. On a whim, I decided to grab Lena's favorite Thai takeout from the little spot we always went on our anniversaries. Thought maybe we could have dinner together, watch that true crime series she liked, just feel normal again. I remember sitting in traffic with the food on the passenger seat, the smell of lemongrass and basil filling the car. For a second, I actually felt good. Like maybe things were just stressful lately, not broken. I pulled into our neighborhood just before 5, and that's when everything shifted. Marcus's truck was in the driveway. Black Ford, dent in the rear fender from a ski trip we took last winter. It sat there like a warning bell. He was supposed to be working across town. He even told me that morning he had meetings all day. My hands clenched the steering wheel. I stared at his license plate like it might spell out a different story. But it didn't. I parked down the block, heart hammering in my chest. Walked the rest of the way with the food still in my hand. Like some twisted gift meant for a version of my life that no longer existed. The front door was unlocked. I stepped in quietly, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. The house felt off, like someone had rearranged the air. I didn't call out, didn't want to tip them off. Instead, I moved on instinct, years of habit, of reading body language, of noticing what didn't belong. I heard the sounds before I saw anything. Muffled laughter, skin against skin, the unmistakable rhythm of betrayal. I climbed the stairs like a ghost, each step heavier than the last. The bedroom door was half open. I pushed it slowly, and there they were, Marcus, Lena, my best friend and my future wife, tangled in each other like I never existed. On the bed we picked out together, the bed where we talked about baby names, where she told me she loved me for the first time. Marcus jumped up, tripping over the sheets, his eyes wide. "Tim, bro, I can explain." He looked scared, like a man caught in a burning house. He said himself. But Lena, she didn't flinch, didn't even try to cover herself properly. She just pulled the sheet lazily over her chest, tilted her head, and gave me that familiar smirk. That same smirk she used when she beat me at Scrabble, when she negotiated down the price of our couch, when she got exactly what she wanted. "What are you going to do, Timothy?" "Cry," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a taunt, a declaration. She thought I'd fall apart, break down, prove her right. But I didn't. I just stood there, calm. My voice was steady when I said, "Thanks for making this easy." I took out my phone, snapped a picture, and walked out, not because I was weak, but because I already had a plan. They thought they caught me off guard, but the truth is, I'd known for weeks. Not everything, not the full picture, but enough to know something was rotting beneath the surface. That gut feeling I'd been pushing down, I stopped ignoring it a long time ago. It started when Lena left her iPad on the kitchen counter one night. Screen still lit up, logged into her messages. I wasn't trying to snoop. I really wasn't. But the screen flashed with a text that said, "Can't wait to feel you again." My stomach dropped. I opened the conversation. It was Marcus. The messages didn't start off sexual. Not right away. At first, it was just playful banter, harmless flirting disguised as inside jokes. But as I scrolled, the truth unraveled in sharp, jagged pieces. Late-night meetups, hotel receipts, plans to keep him in the dark, conversations about me, about how clueless I was. I felt sick, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. I needed proof that no one could deny. So I waited, collected. I downloaded the entire message thread from the synced iPad and backed it up to an external drive. I cross-referenced dates with my calendar, matched them with her gym check-ins, even her credit card statements. I found restaurant bills for 2 on-nights she claimed to be working late, hotel bookings under her name, even rideshare drop-offs at Marcus's apartment. I printed everything, timestamps, maps, screenshots, their entire affair laid out like a crime scene dossier. I bought a small safe and kept it all locked inside. At night, I'd lie in bed next to her, listening to her breathe, wondering how a person could fake love so convincingly. But I didn't let the anger take me. Not yet. That would have given them control. What I wanted was certainty. What I wanted was the upper hand. So when I walked into that bedroom and saw them together, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. The words, "Thanks for making this easy," weren't sarcasm. They were sincere, because now I had everything I needed. No room for excuses. No twisted explanations. Just the truth, cold hard, documented. I didn't take the photo as revenge. I took it to finish the file. The final piece of the puzzle. When I turned and walked out, it wasn't retreat. It was a trigger being pulled on a plan that was already in motion. Let them laugh. Let them think I was weak. They had no idea what was coming. They thought I'd break, but I was never broken. I was waiting. That night, I didn't go to a friend's house or drown myself in whiskey. I went to a motel near the airport, paid in cash, and sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open. I started with the banks. Transferred my half of the joint account into a new private one under my name. Removed Lena as an authorized user on all my credit cards. Called customer service to flag any suspicious activity, and changed every password from Netflix to utilities. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was erasing any trace of shared access. She wouldn't see it coming until her cards started getting declined, until she walked into the store and realized her financial safety net had been pulled. I logged into our mortgage portal, set a meeting with a real estate attorney, and then closed the laptop. Step 1, complete. The next morning, before the sun came up, I drove back to the house. She wasn't there, probably still with Marcus. I walked through the quiet rooms one last time. The place felt hollow, like a stage after the curtain drops. On the kitchen counter, I placed an engagement ring in its velvet box, perfectly centered. Next to it, I left a note on plain white paper, folded once. In my neatest handwriting, I wrote, "Hope he's worth it." That was it. No emotion, no pleading, just the truth, delivered like a surgical strike. I took my bags, locked the door behind me, and left my keys in the mailbox. On my drive out of the neighborhood, I called both of our families. My mom cried. Her dad cursed. Her sister asked if I was sure. I said, I'm more sure than I've ever been. I didn't know them details, but I wanted them to hear it from me, not from gossip or some butchered version Lena would feed them later. I told them the wedding was off, and the reason was betrayal, plain and simple. But the real move, the one I'd been holding, was Diana, Marcus's wife, 8 months pregnant, glowing, kind, the kind of woman who didn't deserve what was coming. I found her number in our old friends group chat. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I hit call. She answered after 3 rings, cheerful at first, until I said her name in a tone she wasn't used to hearing. Diana, I need to tell you something. It's about Marcus and Lena. Silence. I explained slowly, carefully, told her I wasn't looking to hurt her, but she needed to know the truth. Then I sent her everything. The screenshots, the dates, the photos. I told her I was sorry, not for exposing it, but that she had to go through this. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She said thank you. Then she hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time after that, not feeling proud or vindicated, just steady, like a man who had finally taken back control. The war hadn't ended, but the first missile had landed. 2 days later, my phone rang just after noon. I didn't recognize the number, but something told me to answer. It was Diana. Her voice was calm, eerily calm. No waver, no hesitation. Thank you, Timothy, she said, steady as steel. Now I have proof. I could hear something stirring beneath her words, like the quiet before a tornado touches down. I didn't ask what she planned to do. I didn't need to. She didn't call to cry on my shoulder. She called because the woman Marcus had underestimated the most was already 5 steps ahead of him. She ended the call with, "Don't feel bad about this. I'd rather face the truth now than live a lie forever." Then she hung up. That weekend, Diana threw her baby shower. It was supposed to be soft and pastel and full of hope, but Diana had other plans. She waited until halfway through, when the room was full, when the decorations were glowing under the soft afternoon light, and when Marcus walked in like he was the proud father-to-be. He was smiling, carrying a box of baby booties, acting like the doting husband everyone thought he was. Diana walked up to him in front of everyone, smiling sweetly. She held a glass of red fruit punch in one hand. "Hey, babe," she said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Got a surprise for you, too." Then, with precision, she dumped the entire drink on his head. The crowd gasped, But that wasn't the punchline. That came when she pulled out her phone, clicked on a voice memo, and pressed play. The room went silent except for the sound of Lena's voice through the speaker. God, I can't believe he still has no idea. I feel bad sometimes, but not bad enough to stop. Then another recording, Marcus. We'll just wait until the baby's born. Then I'll tell her I'm not happy. Timothy will never see it coming either. People started whispering. Diana wasn't finished. She flipped the screen to show messages, scrolling through photos and screenshots she'd printed and taped onto a big poster board like a science fair project in hell. This, she said, her voice shaking but fierce, is what betrayal looks like, in case anyone here forgot what a coward does behind closed doors. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She left the room with her head high, while Marcus stood there, soaked, speechless, and exposed. By Monday, Marcus had been kicked out of their apartment, blocked on everything, and lost his job at the firm where Diana's cousin worked in HR. Turns out they didn't look too kindly on men who humiliate pregnant women in public with receipts attached. The video went viral. Someone from the baby's shower had filmed the entire thing and posted it on a local community Facebook group. Comments poured in. People weren't just appalled, they were celebrating. Marcus went from proud dad-to-be to the most hated man in the zip code overnight. He tried to reach me after that, left a voicemail, said we needed to talk. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He and Lena started a war. I just handed them the matches. Lena's downfall came a little slower, but it was no less brutal. She worked in luxury real estate. Image was everything. Deals didn't just rely on numbers. They relied on trust, reputation, and charm. And Lena had all three until she didn't. Her prize client was a wealthy couple looking to relocate from out of state. She'd been bragging about them for weeks, talking about how this one commission could cover a year of expenses. What she didn't know was that the couple's close friend happened to be my cousin Edgar, a guy who knew everything because I had sent him the full story. Screenshots, timeline, voice recordings. He didn't have to lie. He just had to nudge. Are you sure you want to trust someone like that with a multi-million-dollar transaction? That was all it took. Within a day, the deal was off. Lena didn't even know why. She just got the email from the client saying they were going in a different direction. She tried to call. No answer. Just silence. The kind that drowns out excuses. Word started getting around. Quietly at first, agents whispering behind desks, co-workers exchanging looks, but then louder. By the end of the week, she was called into her broker's office. They told her they weren't firing her, but they couldn't ignore the optics. Effective immediately, she was put on probation. No new listings. No major clients. A freeze on all commissions pending review. Lena tried to spin it, blamed the market, said it was office politics. But in an industry built on image, she was now toxic. Clients didn't want their property associated with scandal, and colleagues didn't want their name next to hers. She showed up at my temporary place a few days later. I saw her through the peephole, hair messy, eyes red, wearing one of my old hoodies like that might buy her some sympathy. I opened the door halfway, didn't invite her in. She launched straight into it. I made a mistake, she sobbed. You don't have to ruin my life over it. Her voice cracked, but I'd seen that performance before. You think I planned this? I asked, you think any of this is fun for me? She dropped the act for a second, voice sharpening. You're enjoying this. Admit it. You're punishing me. I didn't flinch. You punished yourself the moment you made me the fool in my own home, I said. All I did was show people who you really are. Her face twisted with something between guilt and rage. I loved you, she whispered. Then you should have fought for me, I replied, not slept with my best friend. She didn't have a response to that, just tears. She turned and walked away, the same way I did from that bedroom. But this time, she was the one with nothing left to say. I thought I'd already seen the worst of it, but betrayal has layers, and some cut deeper than others. It was Lena's sister, Mallory, who gave me the final twist of the knife. She called me out of nowhere one afternoon, voice shaking like she wasn't sure if she should even be making the call. I didn't want to get involved, she said. But after everything that's come out, I can't keep this to myself anymore. I brace myself because no one starts a conversation like that unless they're about to drop something nuclear. And she did. According to Mallory, Lena had been planning more than just an affair. She and Marcus had been talking about leaving Seattle altogether. A fresh start, they said. A place where no one knew them, no judgment, no fallout. And they weren't going to do it with their own money. They were going to do it with mine. For months, Lena had been slowly manipulating our shared finances. She convinced me to open a future goals account, a joint savings fund meant for a down payment on a house. I contributed to it regularly. She barely touched it, or so I thought. Mallory said Lena bragged during a wine-fueled rant that the plan was simple. Let me keep saving, keep working, keep playing the role of the dependable idiot. Then once the timing was right, they'd drain the account, vanish to Costa Rica, and live off the money while pretending they'd fallen in love on accident. She said you'd never fight back, Mallory admitted. Said you just disappear like you always do when things get hard. That was the moment something snapped, not in anger, but in disbelief. They hadn't just betrayed me emotionally or physically. They were planning to steal from me, to fund their fantasy life using the money I earned, the future I thought we were building. I logged into the account while Mallory was still on the phone. The balance was half of what it should have been. Several recent transfers to Lena's personal account. Thousands gone. But the rest? Already moved into a new private account under my name the day after I walked out. She hadn't gotten it all. And now, she never would. Mallory apologized again. Said she felt sick holding it in. Said she didn't even know if Lena had fully told Marcus yet. He probably thinks she's just scared and heartbroken, she said. But she's been playing both of you this entire time. That night, I stared at the ceiling and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. They didn't just cheat. They plotted, lied, stole, and the whole time, they saw me as the blind man holding the door open. What they never realized is I had already slammed it shut behind them. It was almost midnight when Marcus finally confronted me. I was at a bar downtown with a couple old friends. Trying to breathe for the first time in weeks. The music was low, the lights warm, and for a few fleeting moments, I actually felt like myself again. That's when I saw him, storming to the crowd, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched so tight I thought it might snap. He walked right up to me. No hesitation, no shame, just fury. "You happy now?" he spat. "You destroyed my life, my marriage, my job, everything." I looked at him calmly, sipped my drink, didn't move an inch. "You did that all on your own," I said. "I just let the truth speak louder than your lies." He laughed, bitter and loud, trying to draw attention. "You smug piece of—" He shoved me hard. Glass tipped, hit the floor, shattered like the rest of the illusion he used to live in. People were turning to look now. I stood up, slow and measured, not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't about to give him the fight he was begging for. "Go home, Marcus," I said. "Whatever's left of your dignity might still be there." But he couldn't help himself. He swung, sloppy, drunk, full of desperation. I saw it coming from a mile away. One clean punch. That's all it took. My fist connected with his jaw, not out of rage, but because some lessons have to be taught the hard way. He stumbled backward and collapsed on the floor like a sack of broken pride. The bar went dead quiet for a second. Then security was there, dragging him up by the arms as he shouted about how I'd set him up, how I was the villain. No one listened. The bouncers had seen the whole thing. One of them clapped me on the shoulder and said he had it coming. Marcus was escorted out into the night, yelling into wind, alone, unraveling in real time. I sat back down, heartbeat steady, hands clean. That wasn't justice. It was inevitability. He wanted to blame me for the life he threw away. But the truth was simple. I wasn't his enemy. His reflection was. And for the first time, he couldn't lie to it anymore. After everything settled, after the noise and betrayal and twisted confessions faded into background static, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that grows from surviving. People kept asking me how I stayed calm, how I didn't lose my mind when everything I trusted shattered in front of me. I tell them this. Some men don't break. We sharpen. We go quiet, not because we're weak, but because we're preparing. And when we come back, we don't return the same. We come back forged, stronger, clearer, and in my case, finally free. A few weeks later, I met someone new. Her name's Elise. We bumped into each other at a bookstore. Literally, both reaching for the same copy of a Murakami novel. She laughed. I apologized. We got coffee. Nothing about it was dramatic or electric or movie script perfect. It was simple, honest. There were no games, no half-truths. Just two people showing up as they were, not as they thought the other wanted them to be. I told her everything early on about Lena, about Marcus, about how betrayal changes the way you move through the world. She didn't flinch. She just nodded, said, "We all carry scars. Some of us just wear them louder." There was something about the way she saw me, not as someone broken, not as a victim, but as a man who chose to walk away with his head held high. I didn't realize how badly I needed that until she gave it to me without even trying. Now, I don't watch my back as much. I don't question every laugh or late text or silence. I trust again, not blindly, but with purpose. More importantly, I trust myself, my instincts, my voice. That quiet voice inside that whispered something was wrong months ago. That voice was right. I just wasn't ready to hear it then. But I hear it now, loud and clear. That voice isn't just my warning system. It's my compass. And it's pointed me toward a life that's mine again, not shared with people who fake loyalty, not built on foundations doomed to crack, but real, raw, earned. I'll never forget what happened, but I'll never let it define me either. What they try to bury me under, I use it as ground to rebuild. And this time, the structure will last, because I know exactly what it takes to make it stand. Let me ask you something. If someone betrays you once, do you believe in forgiveness or consequences? Do you give them another chance, hoping they'll change? Or do you close the door and walk away for good? I'm not talking about the easy kind of forgiveness, the kind you give just to keep the peace. I mean real betrayal, the kind that cuts through the skin and into the bone. What do you believe then? I want to hear your story. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted broke something that couldn't be fixed? How did you respond? Did you stay silent, or did you fight back in your own way? Share it in the comments. Let's talk not just about pain, but about what we do after the pain, because that's where the power lives. That's where the transformation begins. They thought I'd fall apart, that I'd cry, beg, unravel, that I'd carry their shame like it was mine. But they forgot. Some men don't break. We sharpen. We go through the fire, and we come out forged in something stronger than rage. We come out focused, determined, wiser. I didn't lose anything when they left. I just made room for something better, something real. Betrayal doesn't define you. Your response does. It's easy to let bitterness eat you alive, to replay the moment over and over until it becomes your whole identity. But that's not strength. That's stagnation. Strength is in the stillness, in the decision to keep going without needing to prove anything to anyone. It's in walking away without looking back. It's in choosing growth over revenge, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. You get to decide whether you stay stuck in the wreckage or whether you build something new on top of it. And let me tell you, there is no better feeling than realizing you didn't just survive. You leveled up. So don't waste your energy chasing closure from people who never deserved access to your heart in the first place. You're not here to stay broken. You're here to rise. Walk away like a warrior. Rise like a legend. If you made it this far, you're part of this story now. And maybe it's time to write your own ending. One where you don't just heal, you own the fire that tried to consume you.